Hello, everybody. I'm Sean Reynolds from Sportsnet, about to be joined by Ken Wiebe from the Winnipeg Free Press. Together, we are Kenny and Renny. This is the Kenny and Renny post-game show after a wumping laid by the Winnipeg Jets. A wumping laid on the Winnipeg Jets at the hands of the San Jose Sharks, who kind of looked a little out of it tonight. I thought here Stu Smith absolutely nails it and says it was over as soon as the puck dropped. The early goal by Josh Morrissey clearly leading that. And Russ Lowen has it right here. The national media is finally here. Makes sense that I'm in the nation's capital right now. The national media makes his way to the center of Canada. Well, I guess it's not center. You're more in the center of Canada there in Winnipeg. But yeah, national media in the national capital. This is one of those games. I took a look right off the bat. The Winnipeg Jets score early, and I thought to myself, I think this is going to be a runaway. Very specific reason why. I'm not sure I saw this coming. But what I take a look at the pattern that we've seen from the Winnipeg Jets, which we saw last year, and I think you've seen me in the first three shows. I've talked about the fact that the Winnipeg Jets are very much just a continuation of what we saw last year. Their identity seems the same. And one of the things that we see with the Winnipeg Jets is they win games quite often in tight squeakers, but they also kind of seem to blow things wide open in other games that they win. And the difference between those two games is quite simply who scores first for the most part. And what you saw in the previous two games for the Winnipeg Jets is a game in which the opposition scores first. The Winnipeg Jets at that point go into kind of, we're going to turn this into a dogfight. We're going to take it into the gutter. We're going to grind this thing out. And it, I think, limits their ability to score. Right. And so what we get is the previous two games in which we have 2-1 overtime victories by the Winnipeg Jets. Very effective ways of playing hockey. They're basically saying to a team, it's like getting a fish on the line and saying you're not going to run away with this game to the point that you spit the hook. We're going to keep you close. We're going to fight you. We're going to make this tough. And eventually we're going to tire you out and we're going to get you in the boat. That's what they did in the last couple of games. This is similar to the Edmonton Oilers game and a lot of games that we saw last year with the Winnipeg Jets. And what happens is once they get up, especially when they get up by more than one goal. So it's important that the Jets get that second goal against the San Jose Sharks, because what they do at that point is they force the opposition to start taking chances or to open things up. And that's when the Winnipeg Jets are absolutely lethal. And that's what you saw here tonight as they ran up the score on the San Jose Sharks. You know what? I was a little worried coming into this show because I thought, it's a host's job. It's a broadcaster's job to kind of try and match the energy of their audience. And I know what's happening on a night like this today, an 8-3 victory. People are going to come in here. They're super happy. They're rip roaring. This is great. This means that the Winnipeg Jets, here we go. 4-0, one of 4 teams left in the league that still haven't lost here, kicking some butt. No one's kicked the butt of the San Jose Sharks like this. This is a sign the Winnipeg Jets are on to great things. I have a hard time assigning meaning to a game like this, which is why it's hard for me to get really, really excited about a game like this. We all know the stories going into this game. Some of the top players on the San Jose Sharks were missing. They're coming off of a back-to-back. To me, what I see in this game here is a team the San Jose Sharks are not, I said it before the season. I think they're a better team than they were last year. I think losing the players that they had here coming in, this is closer to one of those free spots on the bingo card games. And I'll say it like this, okay? Teams that don't protect the ice are either bad teams or tired teams. The San Jose Sharks did not protect the ice here in this game, right? Like Kyle Connor gets to a really dangerous scoring area fairly easily, shoots and scores. It's a power play goal, but Cole Perfetti's move is right down Broadway, shoots and scores. Vladimir Namestnikov, same thing, shoots and scores. Nikolai Ehlers gets the puck in the neutral zone, skates all, untouched and unchallenged to a high danger scoring opportunity, shoots and scores. The thing for me that is just like the cherry on the cake in all of this is Vladimir Namestnikov scores with 33 seconds left in the game, right? There's 33 seconds left, and 16 seconds or something like that later, Morgan Barron is down shooting from right in the middle of the slot unchallenged. Like this, the San Jose Sharks gave up in this game. And I'm not saying that it didn't have anything to do with the Winnipeg Jets. The Winnipeg Jets can only play the team that's ahead of them on a night like tonight. And they played it well. They played a tired, beaten up San Jose Sharks team, and they did everything that they needed to do. You heard the Jets head coach Scott O'Neill talking about this after the game. These are hard games to play in. The Jets can not match they can match the effort level by the other team, which we've seen this Jets do quite often in the past. Quite often in years past, the Jets will play down to the level of their opponent. They didn't do that. I do think, of the 3 goals they allowed, they did get a little bit sloppy. But for the most part, you have to give the Winnipeg Jets credit for being a team that didn't fall or sink down to the level of the San Jose Sharks in this game. So I want to give them credit for that. If you take a look, things could be worse. I'm looking at the scoreboard right now, and what I see is with the Colorado Avalanche, winless so far this year, down 2-1 to the Anaheim Ducks. Yeah, they're out shooting them 35-11, but the Jets could be that team who are struggling to find ways to win. They're not that, so give credit where it's due, but I don't assign a lot to this game in the ways of being, this is a statement of how good the Winnipeg Jets are. But I do assign to this is the Winnipeg Jets handling things the right way, in a way that maybe they haven't in the past. And when I say the past, I'm thinking, hey, they played the San Jose Sharks twice last year to really, really tight, close games. And they avoided that here on this night. So give the Winnipeg Jets credit where it's due. But the people who would look at this game and say that this is a runaway example of just how good this team is and where they stand in the league, I think it's hard to assign that. Games like this are ones that, as someone who's trying to analyze the Jets and see where they're going, this was over for me after the first period. I'd learned everything I needed to go on to the next challenge, which will be the Pittsburgh Penguins. But that doesn't mean there's not a lot to talk about in this game. That doesn't mean that there aren't things that can come from this game that mean great stuff in the future for the Winnipeg Jets. And I think we should get into it and we should talk about that. And I know the perfect guy to talk about that with, our man, Kenny Wiebe, waiting to get into the show here. So it's time to bring him in here, folks. Here comes Kenny. Kenny Jeff Kabilis absolutely nails it here when he says someone knock on the green door. Make sure Kenny is there after you hung me out to dry in the last show and left me there. But all joking aside, good to see you here. Definitely a better view for you from inside the building on this night. Definitely a better view for the audience who gets to see you looking like $1 million, looking like a Vittorio Rossi, man, while I'm just slumming it here in the national media, in the national center of Canada, not looking like a Vittorio Rossi, man. Good thing you are. If you'd rather look like Kenny than me slumming it here in this hotel room, you know what to do. Head on down to Vittorio Rossi on court and walk and loudly proclaim Kenny and Renny sent you. Ask for Frankie and the boys, and they will do you up right. Ken, what do you take away from a game like this, where it may be hard to take away from an opponent that just doesn't have its fastball on this night, maybe a little bit tired, missing a lot of players? What can you take away?
Yeah, I mean, I would say, Sean, the most important thing for the Jets is that they, didn't let a ton of bad habits creep into the game. They didn't get away and go into point night, cookie night mode, which is sometimes what you see happen when a team starts to put the pedal down early on, and the opposition just doesn't have much in terms of pushback available to them. I would say that the Jets did a lot of the things that we've been wondering when they'd get going. So those are some of the bigger takeaways. I agree with you. I mean, the Toffoli goal is a nice play by Toffoli, but I almost think that, nice redirection. I don't really think that. I think Wallman's shot was going wide. Quite frankly, I don't think he was shooting for his stick in that situation. That's sort of how I saw it in the building. But otherwise, the Jets got a little bit loose in terms of second and third goals for me. But overall, it didn't turn into a wide open 3-on-2 festival, and that's a positive in terms of the Jets' structural play. Of course, they want to keep things a little tighter in their own zone, but I mean, again, it's the way that some of these games, like you mentioned, they can be difficult to play because the Sharks just didn't look like a really good hockey team in this game here. Jets chasing the goaltender, 5 goals. On 18 shots on net for Mackenzie Blackwood. I don't know if this is, I didn't see Ryan Warsofsky's quotes, if it was a mercy pull or if he didn't like too many of them. But overall, Jets got some guys involved offensively that hadn't really been cooking, quite frankly. So to me, that's another development for the Jets in this one. They've got some guys feeling confident. And obviously we know this, and I'm sure you touched on it at the beginning. I mean, we were very quick to say it was a very small sample size, but the only line for the Jets that hasn't been cooking has been the second line. And by the way, the concerns about the second line not doing a whole lot of cooking seem to be quieting down for at least one game here. So, yes, some of their damage was done on the power play with Freddie scoring twice there, but the line itself was pretty good this evening. So I would say that that's probably the biggest development for the Jets. But overall, 4 power play goals. Yes, the penalty kill gave one up, but first one of the year. But overall, they're 6 out of 7 for the year, and that's, again, for a team that was in the bottom third last season. 6 out of 7 is a pretty good percentile, right? So I mean, that's 85% or whatever it is. The Jets were never going to be a 100% penalty kill team. They're not going to be a 50% power play efficiency rating, but for two areas of the game that needed to improve dramatically, those areas are off to a pretty solid start.
I'm going to go out of the way, and I'm going to give the Pristine Roofing wake-up call to the second line. A combined, what was it, 11 points on this night? I think it's safe to say on this night they woke up. Absolutely no doubt. You know what that means. Time to give North and Rick the Pristine Roofing and Siding wake-up call at 204-981-6289. He's the guy who will come down, pop ladder. I promise you, he does do some work sometimes, and you call him up, he'll come down your place, pop out a ladder, get up, have a look, tell you what you need. He's the guy you want to get a hold of, or you can call Pristine Roofing at 1-204-237-7663. A very, very obvious wake-up call on this night for them. But I wonder about the idea, Ken. Do you see this as a wake-up call? Is this line awake now, or is this a line that feasted on a team that didn't make it very hard on anyone tonight?
Yeah, I mean, there's no doubt. I said this with Kelly Moore on the pregame show, Sean, that this was the type of game where I think that line, it's a good jump-off point. They need to do that against tougher competition for sure. But I thought that was an important first step for them. And I really thought that Nikolai Ehlers set the tone this morning. I asked him how he felt that the line was coming along, and he gave a very thoughtful answer. Talked about the importance of spacing and puck support and things that the Jets hadn't been doing. That line had not been doing very well in the first 3 games of the season. I appreciated his candor and his openness and his willingness to share what needed to be done. I mean, because we all saw it and we talked about it in the first 3 games, Sean, even though we were not overreacting or making a big deal out of it. The Jets' second line had not had very good support or spacing, especially in the offensive zone, but also in the neutral zone transition game in the first 3 games. So they talked about it. They watched a lot of video. Ehlers pointed out all of the things that needed to be done. He reiterated his confidence in his line mates. He talked about the work they put in practice. He talked about he said, it has to get better, and it will get better. He said he was feeling positive, and he was positive they would take a step forward. Now, again, you want to see that on a consistent basis. I love that Cole Perfetti reiterated what I said to all the people saying that line has no chemistry and never has. When Cole Perfetti was almost a point a game player through 35 games, his most frequent line mates were Nikolai Ehlers and Vladislav Namestnikov. So let's not pretend they haven't had success before. But again, when we talk about small sample sizes, that's one really good game out of 4 for that line. So important step forward. Now they need to take another one on Sunday and moving forward, because that's the way it goes when you're a line that is relied on to score goals in a primary manner. I mean, we talk about these guys now. These are not just complementary players, Sean. They are primary offensive weapons, and those primary offensive weapons need to be consistently producing. So, again, Cole Perfetti, full marks, first 4-point game of his NHL career. He had a couple 3-pointers last year, 4-pointer, 2-2 for 4. Vladislav Namestnikov, 1-3 for 4. Ehlers, 2-1 for 3, just about had the hat trick early in the third. Those guys were excellent tonight, and it was an important step forward. But the most important thing for that line, Sean, even though today was an important step, Vladislav Namestnikov, we've got to build on that game. That's got to be closer to the standard than what we saw in the first 3 games for the Jets to be a successful team. But I love how they owned it, and I love how they know that it was only one step in the process. Much like we weren't going to overreact in a 3-game sample size, we're not going to overreact in a 4-game sample size where the recency bias tells us that line was absolutely dominant. But another important part in the offensive outburst, Sean, very little against that line in terms of offensive zone time or offense generated against them. So, I mean, that was something that those guys, were leaning on when the offense was difficult to come by at 5-on-5, but they deserve their roses for their ability to be sound defensively in this one as well.
Okay, the question that comes out of this is essentially, is this a harbinger of future things for this line? Now, what you ended with, I think, is the important part, because what that line did tonight was they just basically shut absolutely everything down, and it was all offense going in that direction. Okay, so what I like about that is it's them doing, regardless of what that second line has done so far, and the idea of them needing to get going, they haven't stood out or been stood out as or been a bad line defensively so far.
Right.
So what they've done is the Winnipeg Jets mindset is win the game 0-0 and then maybe add a couple goals here or there and win it 1-0 or 2-0 is basically what they're trying to do. And so what that line has not done is it hasn't abandoned that in a pursuit of trying to get on the board, trying to score some goals. They've been defensively conscious in the first 3 games, and that continues into this game. So I like that. I like the idea that, okay, getting 4 points under my belt, 4 points under my belt, 3 points, that includes 2 goals under my belt, in the case of Nikolai Ehlers, is like a confidence builder and can maybe get the juices flowing. So I take a look at that and I say, those are really good signs to say this isn't just a one-off and this is a team walking away going forward. The one thing that gives me pause on saying that's it, the dam broke, here comes this line. I'm not saying it's not happening, but the one thing that gives me pause to say that is Namestnikov's goal is a player that is given a free pass to the front. Go back and look on that play. He glides from center ice right to the front of the net, untouched, gets the puck in the most dangerous spot on the ice, is not challenged, and shoots it in the back of the net. You cannot expect that to happen over and over again in the NHL. Cole Perfetti's second goal is a shot on net that just goes through. Now, I'm not going to take away the idea that some shooters aren't just really good at picking holes, and maybe he picked that holes. Let's give that one to him. His first one, the dangle, a lot of people will have it at the lamplighter. This is a guy, yeah, it's a power play, but this is a guy who skates untouched down Main Street to shoot that in. And that is something that if we were looking at the reverse, if the Winnipeg Jets had allowed a goal like that, even on the power play, where a guy got to skate right into the middle of the ice in that fashion, we would be ripping the Winnipeg Jets for it. So let's call this what it is. The first goal scored by Nikolai Ehlers, or the one that is set up by Cole Perfetti, is a neutral zone pass cross ice that breaks him wide open to skate right straight down in and get a really good shot on net. These are not scenarios that you can expect the Jets to get going forward. I don't look at these and I don't say the Jets brilliantly opened up these opportunities. I look and say they played a defensively deficient team tonight that time and time and time again allowed them to places you are not supposed to let guys get to. And if they do get there, you're not supposed to make it easy on them. It was easy on the Jets here tonight. So the reason why I'm not taking a look and saying the dam is broken, wide open, here goes the second line, this is just going to continue from here on out, is because it came too easy tonight to say that they are making it happen at the NHL level. They took advantage of what was given to them tonight. Far too much was given. But I go back to this. All I see on the defensive side is a line that continued doing what it's supposed to do defensively, and then a team that played the team that was in front of them, or a line that played the team that was in front of them, took advantage of what was given. If they use it as a confidence builder, I think it's going to work, but I need to see more examples of them going up against tough competition who are actually defending at an NHL level before I can say this team has broken it wide, or that line has broken it wide open.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's totally fair. But I mean, I just think that it was, all things considered, an important step for them. I thought that the passing lanes were opened up. Ehlers creating with his speed. I mean, the play that again, not that line, but Pionk setting up Kyle Connor in the slot. Like, those were heads up plays. The Jets did a nice job of creating those looks for sure. And I also really liked the speed of Ehlers. I thought he was moving the puck, moving well on the ice. And yeah, I mean, Cole's goals are both on the power play, but I thought he was a little bit more assertive in his offensive plays today. And I thought that was a step forward for him. But I mean, again, Vladdy's goal at the end, as you mentioned, I mean, Morgan Barron, the availability down Main Street was a little too easy in this game, but hey, 4-0 for the Jets. It's a good start for them. But they've got to stack a few things. But again, their overall game pretty steady. It's one of those games where if you're Scott O'Neill, you're kind of, if you're the road team, you'd look forward to getting on the bus and get ready for the next game. But lots of other positives for the Jets in this one. But that second line, I love the fact that Nikolai Ehlers exuded confidence while acknowledging things needed to be a lot better, and then went out and did something about it. That was important in the grand scheme of things for this group.
I want to go in a direction here with our main guy, Glenn Fricker, who we saw at a lot of our events. I played baseball against him this summer.
There you go.
And because now he and I are like this, because we played baseball, I'm going to go at him here right now, Ken, and I'm going to tell him, he said, Glenn Fricker says, give the kid credit for getting to the main street and getting to the dirty areas. His game is evolving. Glenn, there were no dirty areas tonight. That was the point of this entire thing. There were no dirty areas. It wasn't hard to get to these spots. There was a free pass to the dirty areas here tonight, which means the dirty areas were actually extremely, extremely clean. So for that, Glenn, I'm going to say that is our ice cold take of the day. We're only 23 minutes in. I'm giving you the ice cold take. So I'm going to tell you this, Glenn Fricker, even if you need to come over to my place in my backyard, get yourself to an Arctic spa as fast as you possibly can, because there's no such thing as a cold take in an Arctic spa. I can tell you, I know from experience, because I've thawed my cold takes from all these years past in my Arctic spa in the backyard. It's got the Spa Boy package in there, which means, you know what? I just set it and forget it. Even a dummy like Renny can take care of this. So Glenn Fricker, you just got the ice cold comment of the game. Thanks for bringing it. It really wasn't that ice cold, to be honest. But
I'd say lukewarm. It was more lukewarm than ice cold. But hey,
I think it was more tepid than lukewarm. I don't think we can say anything was warm. Maybe like room temperature at best. And room temperature can feel pretty cold when you get in a room temperature bath, folks. So let's just leave it at that. Anyway,
east. It's a little cooler out. The wind is a little cooler out east right now, right off the water.
Excellent. Okay, let's move on here to just kind of the power play
Sure.
overall here. I mean, one thing I'll say about this is the second line power play gets rolling a little bit here and starts getting the results of the new coaching. They're starting to get some results on the new systems that are in play here. Give me a sense, Ken, and maybe this is just something we're going to talk about over and over and over again, the way that this team is scoring on the power play. But what are you seeing that's working here?
Yeah, I mean, what we're seeing is a change in philosophy in terms of the execution by the players on the ice. I mean, I'm quite sure Brad Lauer didn't want the Jets to be a stationary power play either. I mean, Brad Lauer worked on the staff with John Cooper in Tampa, Sean. So he would love, if you're Brad Lauer, you're coaching in the Western Hockey League and watching the Jets, and you're saying, why didn't we look like this last year when I was here? But you have to give Davis Payne credit. He's really, the players are buying into what he wants to see. They are moving the puck and they are engaging with a shot first mentality earlier in the power play. But you still see some patience. You see a lot of motion, and the motion is what we've been talking about when the Jets power play has looked good in the last several years. It has shown motion, and we're seeing all kinds of motion. But Sean, the biggest development today is not just the 4 power play goals. It's that there were 2 from each unit, Sean. When the Jets had an effective power play, when Matthew Perreault was the, shift disruptor in front of the blue paint on the second unit, that's when the Jets were in the top half of the NHL in the power play, right? Even after Laine had gone. That ability to have a second unit that is able to score once the first unit often dominates and gets a lot of zone time, that's when things get difficult for the penalty kill. When it's not just one unit and there's not a threat on the second power play unit that you have to be wary of if you're a penalty killer on the opposition. But I've loved what I've seen. Ehlers really showing a lot of confidence on the power play. I like him in that pop position. He's moving around a lot. Josh Morrissey's dangerous at the top. Kyle Connor's one-timer, always a threat. And Sean, I'm going to be frank here. Gabriel Vilardi, again, a lot of people saying that Vilardi needs to wake up and get going. I mean, Sean, for me, Vilardi's getting the looks. Those looks are going to go in. If you keep getting looks like that around the blue paint, it won't be long before Gabriel Vilardi is feeling it and putting up a lot of points. He still had 2 assists today, but he had a ton of chances around the net. He had another couple of, classic no look. I'm not even going to call them no look because, Sean, you've talked about this with Vilardi. It's not eyes behind your head. It's looking to see where Kyle Connor is before your back is turned to him when you make that backhand pass through the skates of the defender. It's not truly a no-look pass because you've looked before. You've set the scene before you get the puck in that direction. So I would say that, and Mark Scheifele too had a couple of golden looks that either were, missed the net or he didn't totally hit. So even on a night where the Jets were 4 for 7, they could have easily had 5 or 6 on the power play, which again, that says something to do with the competition. But the fact that the Jets were sort of on a mode where they weren't just getting lazy on the power play, which is sometimes what you see when the power play is effective. You get into those third periods, instead of it being a close game, the power play ensured that this was a blowout. So on a day that the Jets, I think I just looked it up, shot attempts were 72 to 45, Sean. This was a one-sided game in all regards, including special teams, where the Jets were excellent on a night where their 5-on-5 game was even better than it had been previously.
Yeah, I've said it a number of times here. I'll say it again. Like the Winnipeg Jets on this night, that you can only play the team that's in front of you. And I would rather have a team essentially show we are a step above, we are upper crust, we are a different level, this team. And I do think that that's what the Winnipeg Jets showed on this night. I think I need to show a little something here. Ollie's asking for it. If he says he wants some argument, he wants some bandana. First time this year, we haven't done it yet, but I think I've made everyone wait long enough. It's been asked for.
You're getting the wake up call.
Headband version, Sean's headband version of the Kenny and Renny show. If I'm being honest, I think the Headband itself was mourning the loss of the flow, maybe more than anybody else out there, and so that's why it's taken so long to bust it out this year, but, I
Uh,
think I can go with this look. I don't have the flow out the back, but, sticking out the top there, I could pull it off. Hey, I wanted to bring this up because I wasn't able to see this, so this is a genuine curiosity thing for me, and hopefully the same thing for the people who, like me, weren't in the building here tonight. But Doug Henderson says, "What an ovation for Hellebuyck! Interesting night here to celebrate a goaltender that is elbowing his way already into Hall of Fame conversation." I've said this before.
right.
The amount of goaltenders out there that have their name on the Vezina twice, they're not fluke guys, they're not bums. These are all-timer names. So he's put his name up with some of the all-timers. The Winnipeg Jets fans had an opportunity to show their appreciation for that on this night. Take us into the building, Ken. What was that all like?
Yeah, so 5:08 to go in the first period. It's the third broadcast timeout of the game, and they put up the picture of Hellebuyck on the. Hellebuyck is minding his own business on the bench. They're playing a video. Fans start to get on their feet. The camera pans to Hellebuyck, and fans start roaring, and it just gets louder and louder and louder. And now they've cleared the snow around the bench, and Hellebuyck is skating towards the net, and he puts the glove up. He gives her the old wave, and people are just going nuts. It was really it was an impressive moment. It was an appreciated moment for Connor Hellebuyck. And yeah, I mean, I know some folks in the chat room are saying, 13-4, how can you not sell out these games? I mean, those are fair questions, but I think that attendance is going to rise as the year moves along, and we'll see how it goes. But impressive scene. I know our pal Colin Jensen, was shooting the trophies earlier in the morning at the morning skate, and cool thing for fans. I mean, Sean, I'm pretty sure you've been to the Hockey Hall of Fame. I mean, it's a cool place, and when you see those kind of trophies, it's an impressive lot. And I mean, even we were both there talking to Hellebuyck before you got on the plane to Ottawa. I mean, just listening to Connor talk about Jacques Plante and Terry Sawchuk and some of those names you mentioned. I mean, it's impressive company he is keeping. And I'd like to dig in a little bit more about that conversation, because I know, Sean, I know not everyone would have. I know a lot of people would have seen the interview with him, but there were some things that stood out to you and I from the reflective nature that Connor was showing on what day was that? Was Wednesday? Wednesday.
Thursday.
It was Thursday?
Get it together, Ken. Get it
Okay, buddy. It
together.
was
It was
yesterday.
Thursday.
Yes, we had. Yeah, right, right. It was Thursday. Okay, okay. It feels like a Saturday night with you being in Ottawa, but it's Friday. What stood out to you? And you asked him a couple of pointed questions that you got some good answers for.
Well, I had the opportunity to speak with Connor Hellebuyck when he walked off the stage after he won his Vezina Trophy, right? And what I was kind of thinking about him in that situation was it's the first time we'd seen him since they'd popped out, and I'd been on the road quite a bit for the playoffs, so I kind of felt like I left Winnipeg and I hadn't seen everything, so it still felt fresh to me. The conversations that we had with Connor Hellebuyck when he'd talked about how he thought he'd had a good playoffs and all these kind of things. And I know the debate that comes with that, and it's interesting. You get with some of the national crew that I was out with tonight. Like they're baffled when they hear that, right? When they hear, from wherever they live in Denver or Toronto or Vancouver, or Calgary, or wherever they live, when they hear, the playoffs that the Jets had and Connor Hellebuyck saying, well, I liked my game and I thought I was some of the best hockey I ever played. I think that really baffles people outside this market. I think us in this market, I think us who cover it, and I think the fans out there, and they can let us know if we're wrong here. I think we know that with Connor Hellebuyck, I think it's a power of positive thinking thing. Like I don't think I disagree wholeheartedly with Connor Hellebuyck that was top level hockey of his. I think he left a lot to be desired and was not up to the level that earned him that trophy, right? But I think he's the kind of guy that he doesn't say that out loud. I think he's the kind of guy who just always reinforces in his mind that he's doing well, and he feels like he can carry forward when he does that. One of the things that he's done to kind of lock things in his mind over the last couple of years is when he talks about individual accolades like the Vezina Trophy, it's almost like it's something that he's not interested in, right? When you ask him about it, he's like, I've already won one. For me, everything's about the Stanley Cup. And he's got this one overarching goal, the biggest goal that you can have. And that's what he's changing. And everything else, kind of when you have these conversations with Connor Hellebuyck, are kind of like, yeah, whatever. I guess so, right? And so, with a little bit more time to reflect, I was interested in the idea because he said that so many times, and he said it to me specifically so many times that I wanted to be like, once you've gone through a year like you did last year, once you had this great season, once you've become a two-time Vezina Trophy winner, once your name starts getting up there with some of the all-time best, I get it. Everything is about winning the Stanley Cup to you. You're not showing up here to win a third Vezina Trophy this season. You want to win the Cup. That's your focus. That's what you're focused on. But once it's happened, and once you look in the rearview mirror or on a night like tonight and see that trophy sitting there and think, I won that and I won it for the second time, are you able to find some appreciation in that? And his answer, short and simple, was yes. He is. He's able to kind of take a look back now. And I think one of the things that he really leans into with it, and this is something we talked about, is he views it as a team award, and the pride that he takes away from being part of a team that accomplished something like that together, especially the Jennings is for sure a team award. And so when you're getting both the Jennings, I think usually, and it's a point that he made, usually when you're winning the Vezina Trophy, it's a sign of a pretty darn good defensive team, right? In some cases, it's a sign of a goalie who's bailing a team out. I think that's what happened the first time he won with the Winnipeg Jets. But if you're winning the Jennings and you're winning the Vezina, you basically have a really great defensive team and a great goaltender at play there. So the fact he's able to kind of wax poetic about that and take pride in that, I think it's good to see that, because I would honestly think, and everyone to each their own, but if you're not going to enjoy the accomplishments along the way, I think that this is one of those take time to smell the roses situations. If Connor Hellebuyck is not able to be like, I want a Vezina and I really don't care because all I want is a Stanley Cup, I think he would look back at some point in his life and say, boy, I wish I was a little more present to celebrate the things I was pulling off back in my career at the time I was doing it, because wow, it was amazing what I did, and I should have just taken some time to reflect on that.
Yeah, it's super interesting because, I mean, Connor, you never know what you're going to get from him in those interview situations, right? I mean, you and I were both in Vegas, and he was very laid back and happy, and soaking it all in. And he's such an intense individual, and you never know how much he's going to let you behind the curtain, right? I mean, he was asked a few questions, by a bunch of the people in the scrum that really kind of went to some interesting places, right? I mean, in terms of the reading of the game, and how, as much as he's known, when we had Kevin Woodley on, Connor is elite at reading the game, right? But he's always looking for more of an advantage and trying to get better. And yes, playing the percentages, but not cheating. And, he was talking about stick position and body position, and, and Murat asked the question about his head position, and he sort of, looked away, and he was kind of, I think you and I are on the same page here. He almost was disappointed in Adam for sharing the information with Jesse Granger for the story. It was basically he didn't want people to be in on the caramel secret. And again, when I asked him about if he kept a book on shooters, and the way that he said, I don't, but if I did, I wouldn't tell you anyway. Like, it was one of those like classic Hellebuyck kind of wanting to keep you guessing. So enjoyed the exchange, and again, like he's a very insightful and an inquisitive person, and he's a guy who's very, very structured and a very process-driven individual. And I thought it was pretty funny today, Sean. I don't know if you saw or not, but Josh Morrissey was asked about Connor Hellebuyck by Kelly Moore, and unprompted, Josh brought up the classic interview after he got pulled for the second time, I think, in as many starts, and had given up 5 or 6, and said at the time how he felt good about his game, and he felt his game could win multiple Vezinas. And it was one of those moments where us in the media were like, I applaud the confidence, but like it was almost bordering on like he was changing the subject. But I mean, Josh was saying, some people were laughing, but who's laughing now? Here's Hellebuyck with 4 nominations and 2 wins, and potentially additional Vesnas along the way. So it was interesting to kind of go back to that moment and to sort of think about it and to think about how far he's come as a goalie since that time. But Josh mentioned the intent and the purpose that he has had since the first time he ever met him, and the development camps they went to, and playing together in the minors, and coming up together with the Jets. Connor kind of always had this plan for himself, and the next step in that plan is the elite goaltending in the playoffs, and leading his team on a 16 win run. So, I mean, again, we'll see what happens when we get there, and we're not going to talk about it every single time. But I mean, that is the next step for him. I mean, he had that 950 series against Edmonton, but he needs to go on one of those runs where, he's playing, out of his mind. And his standard has just become so high that I think some people become a little bit numb to it. Sean, and that to your point is, if you're a fan of the Winnipeg Jets, I think there is a real appreciation for what Hellebuyck is doing. But the sustainability and the consistency in that performance is at an elite level. And we saw another goaltender, Jake Ottinger, get paid $8.25 million, and Jake's a little bit younger for sure. But when you're looking at the body of work compared to Hellebuyck's, I mean, 8.5 for Hellebuyck and 8.25 for Swayman and Ottinger, the Jets. It's another one of those great examples, Sean. Yes, they're going to have to pay that into his late 30s. We understand that, and we'll see how it goes later on. But if you're looking at an apples to apples right now, I mean, it's another one of the classic contracts signed by Kevin Cheveldayoff and the Jets. Right?
Wanted to bring. Oh, well, no doubt. And I'll be honest, it's kind of surprising that has just so quickly become the standard that other goalies achieve so easily. And that what we're hearing from Shesterkin is he's going to go way, way, way above that. It's a phenomenal number. I'll be honest. I do wonder, because I think one of the things that we had heard, again, the expectation was with a lot of us that both Connor Hellebuyck and Mark Scheifele were going to be moved before last season. And one of the things that we'd heard about the reason why was because there just wasn't as much interest out there as either of those players were expecting, or that the Winnipeg Jets found from other teams. I think when you take a look around the league at all the different teams that, I mean, the New Jersey Devils lose a year last year because they can't find competent goaltending. And so I have to say, how there was ever a year in which the market for Connor Hellebuyck was not red hot to the point that a team wasn't willing to overpay him to be their goaltender and overpay the Jets to get him, I'm absolutely befuddled by, I have to say. I will throw this out there. Bobby Hill says he saw Sweet Lou in the concourse. I had heard that the keepers of the trophy had accidentally given him the Jennings and the Vezina trophy because, when the goat's there, you hand that kind of stuff to the goat just out of impulse. But Ken, do you want to give him a shout out before we move on?
Yeah, always great when Lou gets into the building. I know he gets to a lot of the Jets games. If you have real estate needs you'd like to have met, whether you're buying, selling, or curious what that house on the corner of the street is going for, you can contact Lou Ferlin at 204-791-9971 or at the office, 204-989-5000. His email is lou@louferlin.ca. That's LOU@LOUFURLAN.ca. Lou Ferlin, excellent realtor, excellent human being, and excellent supporter of the community, including this podcast.
Well, and to my point, and Connor Hellebuyck's point more specifically about the teamwork that it took to win that trophy and to win the Jennings, just wanted to give a shout out to our team at Cambrian Credit Union, from answering members' calls in less than a minute to having all their advisors available by video from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. It makes it so easy to be a Cambrian member. It is obvious the whole team at Cambrian cares about giving you great service, and that is great teamwork, as we said. I wanted to throw this out here tonight. I think kind of being lost in all of this is 2
Yep.
goals from the point on this night. Josh Morrissey getting that goal, Pionk getting that goal, both in the exact same way. I had thought Mackenzie Blackwood needed to do a better job of fighting through screens, getting his eyes around, because both those are essentially, floater shots in the perfect spot, mind you, right? And I will say this, really, really good defensemen, what they do is they recognize when a goalie's eyes are gone, and then they
Yep.
put the puck in a spot on the net. So you are seeing 2 defensemen capitalizing on good work by the Jets in front of the net. That was a real, over the last couple of years, that was a real kind of weapon for the Winnipeg Jets that they especially pulled out in really tight games. You saw Brendan Dillon up his scoring last year. Josh Morrissey, of course, has been just on a torrid pace the last couple of years. But again, I do look at those 2 goals, and I think Mackenzie Blackwood could have done a better job than he did. But for the same reason we talked about the second line and getting their confidence going and getting them scoring, I wonder about getting the defense scoring and this night and the confidence builder that this may have been for them.
Yeah, it's super interesting. And yeah, I mean, this is a team that is really, they're driven by what happened. They don't want to talk about the playoffs, but they know that there is another level for them to reach. And yes, you can't reach that level during the regular season, but you have to build good habits and a foundation. And to me, the Jets foundation has been there since the start of training camp, Sean. They're building on what they did under Rick Bowness while adding a couple of important things. And I've been really impressed by how the coaching staff has kind of handled the success and done a nice job of keeping these guys grounded, continuing to push them in terms of getting better in a lot of areas while also kind of leaning in on their strengths. So, yeah, I mean, it's an interesting time for sure. And, I think that the level of competition, I think, is soon going to be rising. Yes, there's still some non-playoff teams on the horizon here, but at the same time, the Jets are, I think they're in a position where they have an opportunity to stack wins here if they continue to stay focused and build on some of those strengths. Yeah, let's.
The idea of stacking wins. This is something I think that we should probably talk about. There's
Sure.
someone had pointed out that they're already 8 points up on the Nashville Predators. And I do know that, like, some thought processes of even inside the Jets room and some of their, like, internal predictions from players and from the organization of where they think that they could get. I do think that the Winnipeg Jets were thinking similar to what we were, Ken, about the idea of them finishing around 3rd place, with maybe Dallas being, the cream of the crop in the division and one of the teams that would be considered cream of the crop in the NHL. And that the idea that with the additions that they made in the offseason, maybe the Nashville Predators were going to jump ahead of the Winnipeg Jets, especially because if you take a look at where the Nashville Predators were last year, after basically giving away the first 15 games of the season, the pace that they were on after that was actually a better pace than the Winnipeg Jets. So if you're taking what they were doing in the last half of the season, even before that last year, and then their off-season ads, you would think they'd jump up in there. 8 points, I don't care what time of year it is, that's not easy to overcome. Just where you think after 4 games, the Winnipeg Jets have positioned themselves here, Ken, with some slow starts and some stumbling out of the gates from some of their biggest rivals who we would have thought they would have been duking it out for playoff spots.
Yeah, it's super interesting. Nashville, especially the start, has been a little bit surprising, but at the same time, from talking to some people around Nashville, their camp was a little bit different. I mean, when you got new pieces that are coming in, and I think they had a little bit of disruption with the hurricane and things like that. So it's going to take them a while to get going. And the Avalanche just won in overtime here, so they're finally on the board. But I listened into a couple of their games, and I watched the 3rd period of the game with the Bruins. And yes, they're missing a lot of players, but they don't look like themselves, Sean. And when they do look like themselves offensively, they get sunk by bad goaltending. That's what's been the problem there. So the fact that the Jets, yes, we know, yes, they played the Oilers right off the bat, but I mean, the schedule is a little bit on the softer side, but you have to be careful when you're looking at that also, Sean, because softer side of the schedule at the start of the year, there's tons of teams in years past that get off to good starts and then can't keep it up and sustain it. We think of the start that the Calgary Flames are having, but Sean, the Flames, we'll see them in Calgary next weekend. I mean, Calgary's kind of in the situation like the Jets got themselves into. Well, they sorted out their UFA business, and now they have a bunch of guys that want to be around, and suddenly they're off to a great start. So, in terms of the stacking the points, and like you said, 8-point difference. And I think the thing with Nashville, Sean, uh, if I'm not mistaken, I think there's only 3 meetings head to head instead of the 4 this year. So it's hard to make up all of that ground when it doesn't matter if it happens in October or April. We've heard players say that all the time. So yes, there have been times where the Jets have been front runners and then faded a little bit in the second half, but you have to still stack those points. And the Jets are doing that right now. And I think it's absolutely critical, especially given the way some other teams in the Central are playing out of the gate. There's some teams that look more competitive than what some people thought as well. Now, again, test of time, will they be able to stand up? We'll see. But the Jets are in a good spot. And again, the confidence is something that is going to continue to grow as long as they keep playing the way that they are right now. But I'm with you. I think it's absolutely important. Yeah, I'm not saying the Jets have to finish the month undefeated or anything like that, but they look like they're committed. And that's the biggest thing that, not that we were wondering about, but with this group, you kind of always wonder until they show it. Now they're showing it. This is the 3rd year that they're in this sort of mode, not just, partially committed. This is a fully committed group to what they know how they have to play in order to have success. And when they play that way, they're having success. So now they're going to have to raise that level against stiffer competition, but that will come in time.
Just to get this point out quick here, SK, I think with a smart comment here where he says, don't worry about Nashville, Renny, lots of changes. They will get it together. I think this is why it's important. A lot of teams come out of the offseason and there's changes, right? Like that's a change to the core. You're adding Stamkos, you're adding Marchie, who did they add on the back end there from
Brady
Carolina?
Shea. Yeah,
Brady.
So
you're adding all that kind of thing. These are to your very core. So that changes things. That changes the dynamic in the room. That changes the way players interact with each other, all those kind of things. So I agree with that, what SK is saying here. The Winnipeg Jets are coming in with consistency. Other teams with consistency, you take a look at like the New York Rangers. They didn't change much, off to a similar start as the Winnipeg Jets. Points are points, beginning of the season, ending of the season. But right now, while other teams are trying to figure out who they are, what their identity is, how they fit together, the Winnipeg Jets aren't doing that right now. So the ability for them to make sure they're hitting their stride early and putting points in the bank, especially for a team that we know last year had a dip at the back end of the season, and the year before that had a dip at the back end of the season, and the year before that had a dip and fell out of the playoffs that year. The Winnipeg Jets are a traditionally hot starting team, and they traditionally have a significant lull at some point through the rest of the season. So this is one of those situations where I think you have to kind of approach it with the idea that this Jets team, they may figure it out, but they may not, and go through that again. So stacking up these points as much as they can at the beginning of the season is very important.
Quick thing, unrelated. Would you start Comrie on Sunday? I would.
Yeah, I would too. Yeah, it's time to get him in.
And I think the next start will be against Columbus on that road trip near the end of the month. I think you got to get Comrie at least 2 starts in the month of October. If you can find a third, I could make a case for that. But I think that I'm not saying Hellebuyck was off or anything. 3 on 19 saves and 22 shots. That again, that for a goalie, this is a difficult game to get through.
Yeah.
But I would put Comrie in on Sunday. I know Hellebuyck loves afternoon games. I know he had a long break with 4 days between games, but I think that again, this is not about the Penguins and what kind of team they are. You have to start trusting your backup goalie. You don't want to let him sit too long. So I would play him on Sunday, and I would consider Gustafsson and maybe Dylan Coghlan as well for the line. I would consider Gustafsson for sure, and I would even consider Coghlan on the back. Though I've really liked how that third pairing has looked.
Yeah, no doubt. Johnson Group got you covered play of the game today, Ken.
Yeah, stick tap to Ernie Thiessen on this one. He mentioned a nice back check from Cole Perfetti in the first period where he had a nice little stick lift. And Sean, when you're a player who's not getting as many offensive looks as you generally do, making a small play like that can help you with your confidence.
I'm not sure if it was before or after the goal where he set up Ehlers to make it 3-1, but to me, Cole Perfetti making just a smart, subtle play on the back check is something that kind of helped get him going, Sean, at a time where he wanted to get going offensively, but it was a defensive play that got him going. So for me, I would say that was what I'm going to choose in this one.
I think you nailed it. And that would be our Johnston Group got you covered play of the game. And hey, do you run a small business in Canada? Look to Canada's #1 employee benefits plan, Chambers Plan, to give you a competitive edge. Chambers Plan is the simple, stable, smart choice for over 30,000 businesses countrywide. Visit chamberplan.ca to learn more. The Kenny and Renny OGs at the Johnston Group. Love those folks over there. Okay, moving on. What do you got for your keg save of the game, Ken?
Well, I know that Connor Hellebuyck was the man of the hour and being honored today, but I don't have a ton of Hellebuyck saves that stand out in my head, to be quite honest. And you mentioned it, Mackenzie Blackwood was pretty flat in this one as well. And sorry, I never answered your question about traffic. I thought a couple of them were self screens actually too on those two defenseman goals by the Jets. Certainly the one by Morrissey, I thought it was the Sharks forward giving the disruption in front. So I think that Vitek Vanacek really came in and did a nice job. I'm going to give him the keg save of the game for his stop on Velarde in the high slot on the power play chance. For me, that's what I'm going with. Did you have any other ones from Hellebuyck that stood out?
I think you absolutely nailed it. And that's a good one of yours, but doesn't matter what I think, doesn't matter what you think, matters what our fine folks watching this program think. Share with us your save of the game, the hashtag the keg save of the game. You're automatically entered to win a $50 gift certificate usable at any of the 3 fine keg locations in the city of Winnipeg, each location finer than the last. And our winner from our last show is Gabriel Vivaldi. You know what to do. Direct message me at SN Sean Reynolds. Send me your full name, send me your email. I'll have the fine folks at the keg send you a $50 gift certificate usable at any of the 3 fine keg locations here in the city of Winnipeg, each location finer than the last. And Ken, that would bring us to the TCB lamplighter of the game. Hashtag TCB lamplighter. What do you got?
Man, there's a lot of choices here, but for me, I think that we've been asking for, Nikolai Ehlers was effective on the power play. He got himself going at 5-on-5 today, but I'm going to go with the toe drag special. I'm going to get swept away by the highlight reel, even though there were other goals that I maybe liked better. Given the circumstances of Cole needing to get himself going, I'm gonna give him the Slick Hands Award and give him my lamp lighter. It was almost as if he had the lamplighter tape on his stick today, Sean, that the good folks at TCB sent us home with. A little bit of promotion and marketing here.
Wow, that's how you put some pucks in the back of the net. I could tell you I could use that at old timer hockey here right now, the way things are going for me. I disagree with you, Ken. That was far too easy. It wasn't well defended. One play that I thought was actually well defended and the Jets found a way to put it in the back of the net was the Nikolai Ehlers taking the pass from Gabe Velarde. That one was a tight window. He opened that window just enough to get the puck across, forced the goaltender to respect him being in front of the net, a big body. And how does he do that? Well, in the past, we've seen him turn and take the puck to the net, which means the goaltender has to respect him. The guy on top of him is just trying to keep him from getting to the front of the net. And he goes and finds a way to get the pass through from the other defender on the other side of the ice, gets past him to Nikolai Ehlers on that play. That to me is just a beautiful play that works in a lot of different games. I don't think there were a lot of goals tonight that I would take a look at that I would think would work in a lot of different games where teams were defending better. That is one that I think goes in any time. You know me, I like repeatable goals, so I like that one. So that for me is the hashtag TCB lamplighter of the game. That means that I'm about to hand out the lamplighter, but we want to bring something to your attention. A limited time offer. Lamplighter Amber Ale on sale from October 1st to 31st. Save $2, $16.44 for an 8-pack. As you've heard me say, it is the nectar of the gods. You've got until October 31st, Halloween, people, to go out and make sure you're saving on your lamplighter. That brings us to our lamplighter winner from our last game, and that would be K KMO. KMO, you have won. If you want to head down there, you can probably pick up some of that fine tape Ken was showing right there. You'd get it with it on sale as well. But KMO, you're not going to have to pay for your next one. Your next one is on us here at KNR because you are the Lamplighter winner. So you know what to do. Head on down to 11290 Kenniston. Join them in their tap room. Pick up a pizza while you're on there, but you will have a gift card sent to you. As long as you do this thing, you direct message me at SN Sean Reynolds. Send me your full name. Send me your email. And I will have them send you a voucher for a Frosty Delicious 8-pack of Lamplighter Amber Ale, brought to you by our friends at TCB. It is the nectar of the gods. That's it for us, Ken. I'm on 1 o'clock, 12 o'clock in the afternoon tomorrow, Central Standard Time, as I will be hosting the Ottawa Senators as they welcome one of the other undefeated teams in the NHL. You may want to check that out because that's a shrinking club right now, folks, in the Tampa Bay Lightning. Other than that, I will be back. I will be back for the game on Sunday as the maybe Rutgerless, probably Rutgerless Pittsburgh Penguins come rolling into town. I promise we'll have a really good conversation about that after the game is done. We will talk about that. I'm looking forward to doing it. Can't wait to do it with you all.
And we'll talk about Brian Little.
You betcha. Bye-bye, all.